Good afternoon, sir. My name is Devanarayan and I am also from Alapura.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Donna Maria Roy. I am from Kollam.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Mithun Manohar. I am from Patanapuram.
Sir, I would like to ask you a question. Sir, according to you, how is the current higher education system in Kerala compared to other states? And is there any measures to improve it?
So, so if you look at education in India, so India is I always say this, India is a country of contradictions. It is a country of contradictions. We produce 1 million engineers every year. But if you look at the recent McKinsey study or one of the McKinsey studies or any other study, you will notice that only 25 to 30% of these 1 million people who graduate every year is ready for employment. Right? So over the years, we have done a lot of work in increasing the quantity of education. We have opened, we have made basic education compulsory. If you look at the new national education policy, foundation learning has become compulsory. There is a Right to Education Act. So what we have done effectively is to increase the quality of education, the quantity of education. So we produce 1 million engineers every year. But when you look at the quality of education, there is a long way to go. Right? There is a long way to go, because that is why out of the 1 million people who graduate every year, you can only employ 250,000 people. Now, this happens to any system. When you try to optimize both quantity and quality, one will take precedence and move ahead. So now you have to work on the quality of education. Now, quality of education happens in multiple levels. Number one, you need good leadership, you need good institutions, you need good teachers, right? And you need major industry connect for education institutions. So I don't see this as a Kerala problem. I see this as more of a universal problem, right? And my work is mostly not in college education, it's in primary education, but it is true everywhere. While we have done a very good job of increasing the quantity of education, we have a long way to go in the quality of education. And it is not something any one constituency can solve. It is not like a government problem or a student problem or a institution problem. It is a problem which has to be addressed across. So you need, then another issue with our higher education is that we have clearly delinked teaching and research as two different activities. If you look at any developed country where education is, quality of education is superior, I wouldn't say quantity, quality of education is superior, they have joined teaching and research in the hip. So it is one institution which is doing teaching, same institution is doing research. Whereas we have completely delinked this. I think because we needed scale, that's why we got leading. So whatever is the history, so it is time we increase the quality of education. There are many ways to do it. You need excellent teachers. You need to combine research and teaching into the same institution, which means that the teachers need bandwidth to do teaching and research. From a student's perspective, I think learning should not be limited to universities. Right? You have been here for 2 years. Whatever you have studied is obsolete by the time you walk out of the door. And even if you were here for 2 years and you have studied everything which the university taught, it's not enough. So, from a student's perspective, you really need to broaden your horizon. You need to make learning a lifelong process. And it is not about, I wouldn't say you should not, as I said, you should not narrow it down to your field. You need to have a very broad sense of learning. So every one of the participants, of course the government has a part to play, the institution has a part to play, the teachers have the part to play, and the student has a part to play. So I think everyone needs to think about their role and go forward.
So actually, you are a...
By the way, remember, I am a product of this system, right? So it is not a bad system.
So my question is that you are actually a very great influencer, and at the same time you are a very influencer. My question is that what all things that you have great ideas like for the new generations?
What is your?
Is there having any new innovative ideas for the new generations?
New innovative ideas for the new generation. I think that should be the new generation which should create the innovative ideas. But okay, so I think the world has changed. After I started working, right? So as I said, when I started working many years back, there was no concept of innovation or entrepreneurship. Most people went into a government job, which was 9 to 5, retire at 60. There was no performance approach. Nobody considered performance as an important issue. So the world has changed. Today, the world has become much more richer in terms of opportunities. You have campus recruitment, you have capital for entrepreneurship, you have a regulatory system which is very supportive. So things have changed quite a lot. So when the younger generation make choices, their challenges are different. So when I made a choice to get employed, I went to look for a job. My biggest challenge was to find a job. I had to find a job. That was it. For you, the challenge is to choose a job, because you will have multiple opportunities. You have to choose the right one. That is going to be your biggest challenge. So when the younger generation looks at their future, they have to make the right choices. And they have to follow the passion. In my world, in my generation, there was no question of following the passion. Whatever you get, you take. But in your world, you have the ability to follow the passion. So you should try and follow your passion. You should make the right choices. Entrepreneurship is a great opportunity today. It's not an easy path, but it's a great opportunity today. Capital is available. People who have done it before are available. The ideas. So please remember, India is a technology giant. I think most of us don't realize this. That is my view. So when I was traveling the world, people would ask me, you think India is a technology giant? I would say yes. They say, why didn't India create a Microsoft or Google? That is the question, and I had no answer really. But today, we have created UPI, we have created CoWIN, we have created Diksha, we have created Aadhaar. We have created technology which works for 1 billion people. That is what we need. Right? We need to build technology which works for 1 billion people, and I think we are doing it. We did 2 billion vaccines. No country has done it. And we have done it technology based. Most other countries are still dealing with paper. So I think we have enormous potential. So it is for us to capitalize, make the right choices, and take a path which is new.
Sir, at the beginning of your speech, you shared some details regarding the building up of INFOSYS. And you started the business with a capital of only 10,000 Indian rupee. And it's a time where the situation and the conditions are not favorable for technology companies in India. At that time, what made you to build such a big company and taking risk regarding that?
So please remember, INFOSYS today is 40 years old, 81, now 41 years. So it took a long time. It is not that we built it overnight. INFOSYS reached $1 billion in revenue after 23 years. It took 23 years to reach the $1 billion. So everybody has forgotten this. Everybody has seen the last 5 years or 10 years. Some of you are not even born when INFOSYS started, right? So you are looking at the last 5 or 10 years and thinking that that was the journey. That was not the journey. The first 20 years or so was very difficult, right? And the growth was very slow. So it is not like we built a large company or anything. It was actually quite slow. So entrepreneurship and building a large organization is a marathon. See, there are some people today who do it in a short period of time, but if you look at many organizations, they have been built over a long period of time. So you have to be ready to run that marathon. It's very important. Now, in our case, there was some commonality of thought within the founders. We all came from middle class. There was nobody who was rich, nobody who was politically connected. All we had was, our mind and heart. That was all we had. We had nothing else. We had no money, no connection, no influence. So there was a commonality between 7 of us. Mr. Murthy was older to us. He was 10 years, about 8 years older to me. So that gave us, he was able to create stability because he was older. We all listened to him, right? And if we fight with each other, he would come in and say, stop. And we would listen. So there was a great leader. Mr. Murthy was there. He was a great mentor. There was a commonality of thought, right? We all believed in the same thing. And we wanted to run the marathon. So once that came together, right? Once that came together, the commonality of thought, the ability to run the marathon, a great leader, then we were able to run that for 23 years. Once the company reached $1 billion, then everyone said, oh, you achieved it. So then everyone will want to stay. But until that time, there were so many hurdles. So these are the reasons. And we took a leap of faith, a risk, right, which others were not willing to take. So we took the risk. We took a leap of faith. We stayed together. We ran the marathon. And we had a leader. We were lucky. Finally, please remember, apart from everything which you read in the newspaper, everything which I talked about here today, all the answers I gave you, there is one thing which you need. That is luck and God's grace. Without that, nothing can be achieved. So all this now GAN I gave you plus all the answers I gave you, finally there is one word which I want to say, which is God's grace. So we had it, all said and done. To some extent, I think I always say this, I didn't say it today, we invited it. We were honest, we were transparent, we were respectful, we were, we had good value system. So, in a sense, the luck favored us. Not in a sense, it favored us big time.
Thank you, sir.